have to do all 4 acts, you have to do them in that order if you want to have a good speech. So the first thing you're thinking is, hey Tim, who died made you the ruler of speeches? How do you know all this stuff? Where'd you get this from anyway? Great question, Sean. Glad you asked them. Here's the thing. What I've been seeing in studying speeches, going through these $1,000 things of, how to become a better speaker and how to become a better this and that and $500 and all these different really expensive things that I've gone through over and over again. It's a pattern developing. Sorry. Pattern developing. There's a pattern developing. And as you start moving through, you start seeing how this all works. Now, first of all, you say, well, okay, how do you get it? Okay, great, all these fantastic speakers seem to be saying the same thing. They say, okay, somehow you've got to relate to your audience, you've got to add some of this content, you've got to sell things, you've got to make sure that you've got some of the technique. And this is just the way that they happen to occur in speeches. These are all important things people mention again and again and again. So why do it? Well, here's the thing. If you don't have a process for doing things, you just kind of do something and just sort of hope it gets better. Have you done that? Just gone into something, just kind of started doing it, doing something. So, well, maybe if I do this, or maybe if I do that, or maybe if I do those things, maybe it's get better, maybe it doesn't. But you don't have a process for going through it. So it all becomes kind of random. It all becomes kind of, well, I think maybe I've got this better, but I didn't get that better. But if you have a process you can follow, and it's always going to get that result. You say, okay, if I want to get that result, I just go through this process step by step by step by step. And I come out the other side, and I get what I'm supposed to get. Isn't that better? Simpler? Because then you have a process, step-by-step process, and that's really the difference. Kyle's got some questions about it, I can tell already, but
this is a comfortable way to stand.
Thinking about it, the advantage of having a process, and if you're giving a speech, think about this too, is that when people finish, they've got something they can do step by step by step, and they know they're going to get that result. If you have just kind of, here's something you do, here's something you do here, it becomes random, and they get to the end, they don't know, did I get the right result? Did I do things in the right way? Why didn't things come out that way? That's why a process is so important. That's the benefits of having a process. So the process here is very simple. It's attention. Getting and keeping your audience's attention. It's a big deal. Because if you've got a 5-minute speech, a 6-minute speech, if you're speaking in front of your business people in front of there, how do you keep their attention? How do you make sure that they're riveted all the way through it? Well, you have to continue to refer to them. You have to continue to do things like name the names, like use the you. That brings people's attention. It brings them back into thinking, okay, this is relevant to me, all right, I get it. But if you get their attention and the content isn't there, you ever have that happen where somebody kind of gets your attention and after a while you figure out what they're saying and you think, I don't really care about that. Business meeting, this happens a lot. Okay, you're really excited about it, but I'm not. Doesn't really matter to me. It's not relevant. Not really what I need to hear. That's why content is so important. Making sure you have relevant content, making sure you have some sort of story, some sort of thing that engages people. So you start thinking, okay, I get it. This makes sense. This is relevant. This is interesting. This is useful stuff. This is really going to help you get better. Yeah. Content. Content is king. One of the greatest ways to get content across is to do a story. A story, people get involved in stories. Because when you're growing up, and I'll give a nod to world champion speaker Darren LaCroix, he says that no one ever said, Mommy, Daddy, show me a PowerPoint. Nobody does that. They all say, tell me a story. It's the power of stories. Once you story for content, start developing and building and growing your speeches naturally. But if you're developing and growing a speech, at the very end, you got to get something out of it. You ever been in a speech where you're really excited, really interesting, and you're saying, okay, great, but what do I do now? You have that situation. Yeah. So you're getting involved in the speech. If you don't have a technique, what you can actually do afterwards, you're like, okay, it's great listening to it, but it's a nice little story, but where's it really going? Where's it really helping me? What I'm doing. That's the challenge. That technique. Because that technique is going to set you aside for most speakers. Most speakers, they get so in love with their talking, they forget about what's the audience supposed to do? Why should they listen? Because they're going to get better. They're going to learn something. Something's going to help them develop and grow from what they hear. That's why technique is so important. So at the end of it, you can say, aha, okay, I get what they're saying. I now understand what they're talking about. That's the technique. And then finally is selling. Now, some people do the selling at the beginning, before they have your attention. That's not going to work. Selling has to be done at the end. Even if you mention the big benefits at the beginning to get your attention, you have to sell at the end because you want people to use your technique, especially in business. You want them to make that change. You want them to say, yeah, I see why I should do this. And a lot of mistakes most speakers make at the end when they're doing selling is they think about what they want. So the business speaker says, it'll help us maximize productivity. It'll raise our financials. And you're thinking, I don't care about that. What's going to happen to me? The person actually doing the work. How am I going to benefit? So always remember your audience. It's not about what you want, but what your audience wants. And that's how you sell. There are different ways to sell. One simple way to sell is just to tell them, okay, if you don't do it, here's bad things are going to happen. If you do this, here's good things that are going to happen. If you can make that simple case, that doing this is better than doing that, quite often you'll win people up your side. Some people call it going negative, but there's a reason why people go negative because it's so powerful. If you go for that person, this horrible thing happened. If you vote for me, it'll be all wonderful and sunshine and great. If you've seen that happen somewhere in this election. So those are the 4 acts. Simple. Every speech you do, you get the audience attention to the beginning, and usually you or some other means. You have content that's relevant, interesting, and good for your audience. You have techniques that can do something afterwards, and then finally you're able to sell. You're able to say, this is why you should do this is why it's important, this is why you should use this. And once you start using the 4 acts, you discover now you have a process to create good speeches. Once you come out on stage and you know what you're talking about, it's amazing. You're more confident, more certain of yourself. You have this process, you can quickly connect with the audience, get to the end, and you start becoming more comfortable here, acting more comfortable on stage, more comfortable in your life, more comfortable in your business, more comfortable in your world. So if you start going through the 4 acts, start using them, paying attention to them, and see your speaking skills grow.